All right. See you.
My shirt's getting chroma keyed. I don't like this. Hi, let's talk about Survivor Series, the latest WWE pay-per-view network special extravaganza sort of thing. If I were to give this a show rating, just as a, spoiler-free impressions, it was alright. It'd be worth a watch if you have the subscription to the network, $9.99. I would say it's worth it. It was a very interesting show. There's a lot to talk about, actually. On the pre-show was the tag team match. It was Team SmackDown, which was the Usos, the New Day. It was... I can't remember the other three teams involved, if that tells you. The Primos were in there, the Clones. And I don't remember the other two teams. For the life in me. Insanity. That was the fourth one. I don't know the fifth one. This tells you the depth with the tag division. That's a massive problem. On Team Raw, there was Gable and Rude. There was the Ascension. There was the Revival. There was the B Team. And I don't remember the other team. Again, there's a massive tag team problem in WWE at the moment. And this pay-per-view just sort of goes to show. Let me pull my shirt down so it doesn't freak out like that. As far as the match itself goes, for the tag team Survivor Series matches, they're always this really high-energy train wreck sort of a thing. And this one lived up to that expectations. It was a good match. It's pretty much what you expected for a pre-show match. It ended with the final two being the Usos and the Revival, which is a really interesting exchange. It's not exactly what I expected going into it, but they really delivered. They had a fantastic match, fantastic ending. Usos go over. It would be a very odd sign of the rest of the pay-per-view to come. The show kicks off with the women's 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. In this one, it's Mickie James, Nia Jax, Tamina, Bayley, and Sasha Banks. There was an incident on the pre-show where Ruby Riott and Natalie got kicked off because, they're in a feud currently. You shouldn't have put them on the tag team in the first place. So at the very last minute, Ruby Riott and Natty Hart were replaced with Sasha Banks and Bayley. On the Team SmackDown side, it was Naomi, it was Carmella, Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, and Asuka. And this one I didn't enjoy nearly as much. It is a world phenomenon, thank you. As far as the women's match, it's not as good as the tag match, but it was still a fairly competent match overall. Can't say a whole lot about it. That nothing particularly stands out for the most part of it. The ending of the match, it came down to Asuka, who is probably the most talented woman in the roster, but she's so painfully underutilized. At least as far as in-ring work goes, she's an incredible wrestler. It was her up against Nia Jax and Sasha Banks. And the way it came down to the one-on-one is Nia Jax pushed her own teammate. She cost Sasha Banks a pinfall. And then immediately Nia Jax gets in the ring and just destroys Asuka. They didn't have a proper 1v1 sort of thing. Immediately after she got the victory over Sasha Banks, Nia Jax came in there, dropped the leg, dropped 3 times, and that was it. I don't like Nia Jax. I'm okay with big Haas sort of characters. That's not the problem. If you're a big lumbering person, you can do it properly. It's a good thing. She can't. And she's a really botch-heavy wrestler. Obviously, there was the issue where she injured Becky Lynch last week on Raw. And they're leaning into that. It's hashtag facebreaker or something when she was in there. Why would you bring acknowledgement to that? This unsafe worker just ruined your main event for this show. And you're going to try and spin an angle out of it instead of, sending her back to developmental or, teaching her a lesson for being so fucking rough. But I don't know. I just don't see why they would want to push Nia Jax again. She had her run at the top. It didn't go very well. The fans didn't like it. They didn't like her. I don't know why you'd want to go that direction again. But we'll find out after the women's tag match. it goes to the secondary, the men's title, which was Seth Rollins versus Nakamura. And this is a match that on paper was very interesting. Seth Rollins is obviously phenomenal, and Nakamura, since coming to the WWE, has been very hit or miss. In NXT, he was insanely good. In New Japan, he was probably one of the best wrestlers in the world. Coming to the main roster WWE, he's been extremely hit or miss. Outside of 2 of the 3 matches with AJ Styles, I can't think of a single main roster match of his that was enjoyable. So coming into this is one of those where they could deliver an amazing match or they could just be fucking terrible. And they delivered an amazing match, straight up. There was nothing about this that was worth skipping. They did a phenomenal traditional wrestling pace sort of match. So, slow opener, a lot of feeling out process. I'm really surprised they didn't tie in Dean Ambrose at all. Try to play into the storyline that Seth Rollins has been distracted leading to this pay-per-view. But no, he was on point. He was on focus. They pulled out all the stops. You got to see the ripcord knee, which I think is a beautiful move, needs to be used more often. You saw the Michinoku driver from Nakamura. You haven't seen that in fucking forever. Kinshasa to the back of the head. Fantastic spot. Only got a 2 count there. Then Seth Rollins comes back. He hits the superplex into the Falcon Arrow. Everyone kicks out the fucking Falcon Arrow, but beautiful looking spot. The finish is obviously Seth Rollins goes over with the curb stomp, which is so nice to see back in the company. And he's been using it for like 6 months now, but still, I love seeing it. It's one of my favorite finishers. From that point, this puts Team Raw up 2-0, and they start talking about it being a sweep. They could win all of the matches. It could be a blowout, which doesn't make sense to me because it ignores the pre-show. Team SmackDown won the pre-show match, but for whatever reason, they refused to acknowledge it on the television or on the main broadcast. Like, they were the scoreboard all night, did not show the win for that first match, and I really, really felt like an odd exclusion to me. But this match, skipping back a second, this match, Seth Rollins and Nakamura, is probably match of the night. They really delivered. The next match, if you're interested in it, the next match was the Authors of Pain versus The Bar with Big Show. Big Show was in the corner of Cesaro and Sheamus. If you haven't been following the product recently, he's still around. He still does things. And this match was really, unfortunately, short. Like, you would expect a massive train wreck sort of thing where these guys were just destroying each other. 4 big hosses. This could have been a car crash of a match, and it didn't really get the opportunity to do so. They were just starting to get into it when there was some outside interference with Drake Maverick, and that led to him running into the Big Show. And they did this moment where Drake Maverick ran into the Big Show. So Big Show, goozles him, grabs him by the throat, lifts him up, sets him on the apron. It looks like he's either trying to choke him out or choke slam him off the other side into the ground. I don't know what the plan was there for Big Show, but as he's got them there, holding up off the ground, Drake Maverick pees himself. I don't know if it was a false bladder or something, because it looked like this looked like a planned moment. I don't know if he just drank a bunch of water, if they, had him wear something, but you could see this trickle down his leg, and it's the stupidest fucking thing in the world. You just fucking destroyed the dude's credibility as a manager. He's supposed to still be the general manager of 205 Live on top of managing Authors of Pain. Why in the actual fuck would you do it? I don't get it. I really don't. And you couldn't have just had him be chokeslammed off of the side of the ring or something like that. There's a million different ways this spot could have played out. Because the goal is this spot distracted the Bar so Authors of Pain could get the finish. And it did that. It was a really cool, because they hit their fucking, powerbomb finish thing, and it looks impressive. These guys have potential as proper big hoss characters. I'm really looking forward to see how they do on the main roster. Because at least in NXT, they were phenomenal. It was really well played out, and I hope they keep doing it that way. But this odd fucking finish where Drake Maverick just pees himself makes no fucking sense to me. It seems like such a way to ruin a perfectly good character. It's not unrecoverable, but it's just so fucking stupid. It really is. And it cut the match really short, too. Like, that match should have been much longer. It should have been a train wreck, and that finish really ruined everything I liked about that match getting into it. Because it had a nice start, but they just killed it. Because it took way too long to set up, and you knew something was going to happen for the distraction, and it's just... Like, your average audience is like 30, not fucking 12. It's not funny. It's just cringeworthy and stupid. I was watching this part of the show with my wife, and she just gave me this oddball look. It's like, what the fuck are you watching? It's like, I don't know. You can't explain this. You can't defend this. It's stupid. Moving on from that train wreck of a tag match where Raw goes up again. They are now up 4-0. No, 3-0 over SmackDown. It moves into the Cruiserweight tag match, or the Cruiserweight title match. Mustafa Ali versus Buddy Murphy. If you're not familiar with 205 Live, with the Cruiserweight division, you really should, because this is some of the best wrestling, and this match just shows it. Mustafa Ali is amazing, and Buddy Murphy has been on a tear since moving to that division. You wouldn't think his tag team getting split up would be the best thing to happen to his career, but he's been on fire. He really has. The build up to this feud on 205 Live has been really well done. They had the face-off with a proper weigh-in to make sure they made the 205 cutoff, so I thought that was a really nice touch. As far as the match itself goes, it absolutely delivered. I go back and forth if I like this match more, if I like the Nakamura and Rollins match more, but they're both really, really good. The finish, Murphy hits his Murphy's Law finisher, gets the pin count, or gets the pin, fucking hell. It's been a long day. He gets the 3 count after Murphy's Law, and that's all she wrote. But it was a really good match for, a short 10-minute affair. This is what the Cruiserweights can do. They can pack every single bit of those 10 minutes with something that delivers, and I fucking loved it. I really do. If you're not watching 205 Live or NXT, you really should start watching it, at least from a pure wrestling standpoint. Those shows are the best the company has to offer at the moment. After the Cruiserweights, it goes into the main men's 5-on-5 match, and it is on Team Raw. We've got Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler. I can't remember the rest of them now. Finn Balor and Bobby Lashley. Finn Balor got added sort of last moment, and Bobby Lashley has Leo Rush with him. Also at ringside is Baron Corbin, the captain of Team Raw, which I don't really understand. Because it was the same thing with women's, where there was a captain who wasn't involved in the match. They were just at ringside as a manager role. Why are they the captain if they're not in the match? They're a coach. There's defined terms for this for a reason, you know what I mean? On the Team SmackDown side, it was The Miz, it was Rey Mysterio, it was Jeff Hardy, Shane McMahon, and Samoa Joe. And Samoa Joe was built leading into this as he was the ringer. He was their muscle. He was going to be the guy to pull it out from, especially after Daniel Bryan had pulled out for the world title match. That left Samoa Joe was their one big hoss, and he gets destroyed like a minute into the match. He gets distracted and gets caught with a Claymore really early on, and it sets the tone for most of this match where Team SmackDown is pretty much on the ropes. There was a brief moment to where they had sort of leveled the odds later in the match, but it didn't last very long. The much more muscular part of the Raw team just sort of manhandled most of SmackDown. The only real time that they got it is when there was a bit of chaos where the Raw team sort of imploded with Drew McIntyre and Braun Strowman getting in each other's faces. So there was a minor moment where everything sort of clashed and exploded from that point. Team SmackDown were able to take advantage of their infighting and get Braun Strowman to the outside. Shane McMahon did his diving elbow through the announcer's table. It looked beautiful. Took Braun Strowman out of the match for a while. And they had a brief period of time where they were on top of the world, but it didn't last very long, unfortunately. Once Braun Strowman came back around, he was just on the warpath. Shane McMahon twice tried for the coast-to-coast elbow, or coast-to-coast dropkick, sorry. And I say try because he hit the first one. And by the time the second one came around, he was really showing his tiredness. I'm assuming this is part of the story. Like, he was barely dragging himself to the top of those turnbuckles. And he goes for the jump. Braun Strowman out of nowhere just, like, wails him out of midair. It was painful. And this just starts Braun Strowman on the warpath, where one after another, power slam to Shane McMahon, power slam to Jeff Hardy, fucking tosses Rey Mysterio like a rag doll. He just destroys it. It gets down to its 3-on-1 where the only guy left is Shane McMahon by himself against 3 members of the Raw roster. And he does that thing where he squares up, he's like, let's fucking do this, and then he just gets destroyed. And the second the match is over, Braun Strowman starts chasing Baron Corbin. Because that was his whole point of getting involved in the match. And Team Raw is up 4-0 at this point. At least in the scoreboard. Again, they ignore the goddamn tag match, which still bothers me. Why would you have it if you're not going to pretend it existed? Or why not just let the Revival go over on the pre-show, It's such an odd way, especially since the Usos don't really need the win at the moment. They're already booked really strong on SmackDown. Why not just let the Revival get that win? But I digress. It's now 4-0 Raw. Raw wins at this point, regardless of the outcome of the other 2 matches. They've, got the majority of points at this point. From that match, it goes into the women's match. The secondary women's match. The backup women's match. The original plan was going to be Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. Last Monday on Raw, they did the angle to where one brand invades the other. In this case, the SmackDown women showed up on Raw, and it led to this giant clusterfuck brawl as they were just tearing into each other. And in the chaos of this brawl, Nia Jax gives a stiff right hand to the face of Becky Lynch, breaks her nose, and gives her a concussion. So WWE's really strict on their concussion policy these days, so that just means Becky Lynch can't wrestle for the next, couple weeks or however long it takes doctors to clear her. She's out of commission. Next night on SmackDown, she has to appoint her replacement for this tag match, or for this title match. Champion versus champion match. You know what I mean. But her replacement was Charlotte Flair. In this really awkward segment, to where they have all the women in the ring, and then Becky Lynch picks Charlotte, despite, the blood feud that they've had for 3 weeks where they literally hate each other. She picks Charlotte, gives Charlotte a hug, and walks off. It doesn't make any sense to me. It just seemingly undermines the last several months of their feud, of their character development. And it's not something like you needed it to happen that way, because Paige was there. Paige could have said, Charlotte's the previous champion. She's the one most fitting to deserve it. Or you could, have a battle royal or something to pick the last person. But why would you have Becky do it and then give Charlotte a hug afterwards, like they're burying the hatchet or something? You want to save that moment for when it's actually impactful. I don't know. But it leads to Survivor Series, where Ronda Rousey is the Raw Women's, and then Charlotte is the stand-in for Team SmackDown. And the two of them, for the first half of the match, have an amazing match. Obviously, Charlotte is really good, and Ronda Rousey has proven in the half dozen matches he's had so far that she's also a very competent performer. She can deliver when she needs to, and this match showed a lot of what you can expect going forwards. They had an amazing match. If it had gone to a proper finish, it could have been contender for match of the night. Like, it was that good. And then it comes around for the finish. And I say finish because it gets very, very chaotic. And then it gets spewed to the outside to the brawl moments. And that leads to Charlotte Flair getting a weapon and blasting Ronda Rousey with a kendo stick to get herself disqualified. Team Raw goes up 5-0. Again, they're ignoring the pre-show match for some fucking reason. But after she gets disqualified, Charlotte Flair just fucking snaps. A lot like Daniel Bryan did last week. She just starts destroying Ronda Rousey, continually hitting her with the kendo sticks, ramming her into the announce steps on the outside. Back in the ring, Charlotte grabs a steel chair and beats Rousey with it a couple of times. Does the spot where she puts the chair across her head and then stomps on the back of it. It's a brutal looking spot. And it's something where I don't know where they want to go with this. If the plan was Charlotte versus Rousey at WrestleMania, this would make a nice feeder for it. But I was kind of hoping they had changed plans and made that Becky versus Rousey, because I think that's still your bigger match, even after all the shenanigans. I don't know if they want to do a rematch here for Royal Rumble, or maybe TLC, or if this is the setup for the Mania match, because what they could do is have Rousey pull out or drop the title due to injury and come back come Royal Rumble season, win the Royal Rumble, and challenge Flair for her title, assuming Flair takes it back from Becky Lynch, obviously. But you could do it that way to tell a story of the two of them finally getting that one-on-one confrontation. This makes great feeling fodder for it. So you could still go that direction, and it would be a really good match. Judged by what we saw here, they can deliver. Like, I have much more confidence in the matchup now after I've seen the two of them go at it than I did previously just thinking about it. But personally, I'd still wish that they would build up for Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey. If you saw the build up to this feud, Becky Lynch is the most over act that they have in the company at the moment. And I don't know what they're going to do with her going forwards. On Twitter, Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey are still exchanging barbs. Like, they're still going at it. They're still probably planning at some point to do the two of them head to head, but I don't know how that fits in with the current landscape after this attack after the match. I just don't know. And it's a lot of very interesting speculative possibilities. And at the very least, it's two more good matches. It means Ronda Rousey has a Becky Lynch match at some point down the pipe and a Charlotte Flair match that both of them have proper build, and both of them can be amazing if this is anything to judge by. From that match, Raw is up 5-0, and it goes to the main event, which is Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan. Boy, the start of this match reminds me a lot of Brock Lesnar versus John Cena from SummerSlam 2014. If you've not seen that match, Brock Lesnar just suplexes John Cena around for like 10 minutes, and then Cena makes a minor comeback and gets F5'd, and that was the end of that match. The start of this match was opening a lot like that. There were some minor exchanges, but once Brock Lesnar hit his first German suplex, Daniel Bryan was damn near comatose, and the announcers were very much selling it as he could have injured his neck. This was very painful to watch, because Daniel Bryan plays this particular part very, very well. He just goes practically dead weight, and because of the massive size difference between them, Brock Lesnar can just basically ragdoll him around. He did for like a good 5 minutes or so in a row. Just, suplexes, brutal clotheslines, just absolutely murdering Daniel Bryan. It goes to the point where Brock Lesnar will attempted an F5 after a moment. He hit an F5, lifted his shoulders up after a 2 count, like physically broke up his own pin so he could hurt him some more. It's just really hard stuff to watch for the first point. It looks like he's going for the finish. He's got him up for the second F5. Bryan is able to land on his feet, but in the process of it, he hits the ref. So the ref takes a powder to the outside, and in the moment, Daniel Bryan goes to fucking Dick Kick City and wails Lesnar with what looks like the hardest low blow I have seen in so fucking long. Like, he absolutely lays into him. Lesnar goes down. You can hear him screaming from the pain of it. Bryan hits the knee off of that low blow. Gets a 2 count. Then Bryan starts going ham. This is a brief bit of offense where he tries to make something of a comeback off of that low blow. The fight spills to the outside. Lesnar gets shoved into the ring post. Gets knocked into the steel stairs. Gets back in the ring. He gets hit with another finisher. Another 2 count after the second knee. And it looks like Daniel Bryan could actually do something. He locks in the yes lock. He's got it in there for a while before Lesnar finally powers out of it. But it gets my heart up. Like, please don't do this to me if you're just going to have him. What happens next is he just gets hit with another F5 and it's over. And the crowd goes basically mute after the finish of the match. Because you're trying to play off as a heel versus heel. Both your champions going into this are supposed to be bad guys. So how are you... What did you really expect the crowd outcome to be? They either hate Daniel Bryan like they should against the guy Brock Lesnar that they spent the better part of this year trying to build him as someone who does not care about WWE. For the entire build-up to the Roman Reigns thing, the reason he got over is because Lesnar doesn't care. He's a champion that isn't here. So they give him the championship again and then just have him beat Daniel Bryan fresh off of his heel turn. And you wonder why the crowd just doesn't care at the end of it. Why the fuck are they supposed to care? It's the expected outcome. It just sort of sucks. Like, they did a really good build to the false finish. Like, you really thought for a brief moment there that Daniel Bryan could do it. It just sort of irks me that they couldn't do another shady finish. I mean, they've had a couple on the show. Just throw one more. Don't completely kill Daniel Bryan's momentum like this. I mean, it's a fresh heel turn. They'll recover it. They're really good at doing that, or just ignoring it and pretending the momentum didn't happen in the first place. But it was a bit depressing after all of that effort. A single F5 and it's over. It's done. But don't let the finishing moments distract you from the show as a whole. It was still a really, really good show. I mean, if you were to give it a letter grade, like a C+, B- area, still an enjoyable show. Still something I'd recommend watching. If for nothing else, the Seth Rollins and Nakamura match, the Mustafa Ali Buddy Murphy match, and the Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey match were all really, really good matches. Probably like, all 4-star matches. Tag match was really good. The women's 5-on-5 match was really good. Well, it was decent anyways. The men's 5-on-5 was underwhelming because Team SmackDown just got so utterly destroyed. It was clearly a story for Raw. There was, on the SmackDown side, the story was Shane McMahon. Because Shane McMahon, I don't fucking know. At this point, I'm tired of Shane McMahon taking the spotlight. Like, it's nice for him to come back as a commissioner, as a general manager, but to get as physically involved as he does, and for him to so predominantly take over the storylines, just feels like wasted opportunity when you could be putting that effort into any of the other guys in this match and actually build something off of it. But the Raw side just completely destroyed that match. It made the men's match just sort of underwhelming to me. And obviously the main event, despite the brief period where Daniel Bryan looked like he was on fire, most of it was just sort of painful and awkward to watch. So I don't know. But I think the show as a whole was decent. It was good. It was good enough to where I'd recommend watching it to somebody else. And it leaves a lot of open threads, particularly in the women's division, with how you proceed with Ronda Rousey and with Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch sitting there as the champion who had to pull out of this match. I am very, very interested to see what they do with the three of them come Royal Rumble, come WrestleMania, see what the plan is for that. Obviously, the short-term plan is probably Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax. if Ronda Rousey doesn't surrender her title due to injury because of the aftermath of that. But it'll be very interesting to see how that pays out. On the, men's side of things, obviously Lesnar and Strowman are queued up at some point. Hopefully Strowman takes the title and we can be fucking done with Brock Lesnar sitting at the top of the division and never fucking showing up. But you never know. On the SmackDown side, it's very, very wide open. If you stay with the Daniel Bryan as champion, or if you hotshot it back to AJ Styles, or if you get him involved in feuds with other guys like Rey Mysterio and Jeff Hardy, or, potential Miz turn. Because it looks like into this show, Miz was much more confident and, likable for this show. I don't know if they made that intentional or not, but it's very interesting to see if they turn Miz face, particularly with his movie out and with Mrs. as a thing. If they make him a good guy, you could have a face Miz and a heel Daniel Bryan. I think it'd be a very interesting dynamic, but I don't know. It'd be very interesting to watch what happens for the fallout of this show, which was, again, I'll say it's a good show. I'll say it's worth watching. But that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Going forward, these will be broadcast live on Twitch, so we'll have a bit of more chat interaction if we ever get a chat built up. Also, in the comment section on YouTube, if you have any thoughts or anything like that, feel free to leave them there. Still looking for a second for another voice to, sort of talk through the event and my thoughts. So if you know anybody, if you're interested in anybody, feel free to send me the information or send me a message. I'll be more than happy to take a look and we'll see what we can get figured out. But that'll be it for me this week. Next big event is TLC in December. Then obviously there's the Royal Rumble and there's Wrestle Kingdom in January for New Japan. So those two should be absolutely stellar. January is always my favorite month for wrestling because you've got Wrestle Kingdom, you've got the Royal Rumble, and the takeover before the Royal Rumble, which the last 3 years has been pretty fucking good as well. So, January is a very stacked event. This is getting to the point in the wrestling season where things are starting to get really good and really interesting as the shows start to build to a crescendo. New Japan is set for Wrestle Kingdom, and WWE's just starting its warpath to WrestleMania. ROH has that Madison Square Garden show in March, and they're starting to build towards that as well. So this is a very good time, regardless of which sort of company you follow. All of them are building to a crescendo at this moment. Very interesting to see where the landscape sort of shakes up. But we'll find out next time.